Now this is a good question. Mark Crossfield here with Golf Online. Mark is asking, why is there such a huge gap in prices between blades and cavity back irons? Materials, or is it craftsmanship? Do you think cost is why so many people aren't gaming blades? That is an interesting question. I think there's many layers to this. I would say, and I'm not an expert in this because I am not manufacturing equipment, but forging a club, so one solid bit of metal and cutting that out and what have you, it's got to cost a lot more than cast, just pouring it into a mould over and over and over again, because surely casting is the reason we go to cast is because it's so good for mass production, isn't it, which then lowers cost. I might be wrong, post comments down below. That's what's in my head. Where forging, taking, you know, a square of metal over and over again and having to cut it out, is more time consuming, there's more skills, there's more craftsmanship, as you say. The second thing, regardless of that point is right or wrong, it doesn't affect the second point. The second point is that forged clubs need to be a certain price because the market dictates it. So what I mean by that, if there was a forged iron that was out, let's say forged irons at the minute are £700 for a set. Regardless what they are, let's just pretend that's the price. And then there's a forged set of irons released for £299. Who's buying them? Do you see what I mean? There'll be a lot of people who won't buy that on price because it's not the price forged clubs should be. Kind of in people's heads. The market has to reflect what people are prepared to spend, and also what people think they should spend on certain items, and also what that brand dictates they should spend, because different brands are trying to position themselves differently against other brands, as in being better quality, more, you know, priced more. Think about it as I've done it before in the watch market, from a Rolex down to, you know, a Casio. Rolex are trying to position themselves up here, regardless what the raw material costs are. They're gonna put their watches at a certain price because it suits the brand. So I think there's so many layers to this, and I think golfers look at it often in very basic eyes. I'm not saying you are, Mark, but people do. As in, if the raw materials cost, you know, £200 and they sell it for $799, if they can sell it there, all that money they're spending on pushing that brand, advertising that brand, that is worked in there as well. So for me, I think it's craftsmanship. I would say it's professionalism of trying to aim a certain professional style club at a professional market, which always expect to pay that little bit more even if they don't want to. And I think if you start making irons, bladed irons from top manufacturers at $299, say, and they still can make some profit, then I just don't think people would lap it up. I just don't think they would. I mean, you could persuade them, but it would cost so much to persuade them in advertising that you probably wouldn't then be able to sell it at $299. Does that make sense? You'd have to persuade them that these are really good. They're just cheap because we're doing you all a favour. You've got to remember there are employees at these companies, hundreds of them, and they all need paying. So it's kind of this, you know, it makes sense when you get behind the curtain and look a bit more into what happens to produce these clubs and get them in front of you. Post comments down below. Why do you think blades are more expensive than cavity backs, and do you think it would change people using them? Let me know. Post comments down below. Thanks for watching.